Betrayal cuts deepest when it wears the face of family. I learned that the hard way, not just from a wife I thought I knew, but from the brother I'd trusted my entire life. We were only a year apart, almost like twins, and for most of my life, I would have sworn Jason would die before he'd stab me in the back. Turns out, I was wrong. Back in high school, there were three of us tangled in the same story. Me, Jason, and Emily Brooks. Jason was the confident upperclassman. I was the quiet one in the same grade as Emily. She had a crush on him first. I knew it, everyone did. But somehow she ended up choosing me. Jason never made a big deal about it. At least, not then. Jason married early, right after graduation. His girlfriend got pregnant, and he did what he thought was right. For 20 years, they stayed together, raised my nephew Adam, and built a life that looked solid from the outside. I went the military route, building a different kind of life, serving overseas while Emily and I settled down slowly. Through it all, we were a tight family. Holidays, birthdays, barbecues in the backyard, we shared it all. Jason and his wife, me and Emily, Adam running around with cousins. It felt unbreakable. Even after Jason's marriage crumbled and he became a successful businessman on his own, we stayed close. He'd drop by our house. Emily would chat with him like an old friend, and I'd be glad he wasn't alone. We trusted each other so much that when my deployments got longer, months away, sometimes out of contact, I never worried. Emily had Jason to lean on if something broke, if she needed advice. Jason had Emily to talk to when loneliness hit. It felt safe, the way families should. But what I didn't know, what I couldn't imagine back then, was that the same old spark from high school, the one I thought died long ago, was still smoldering between them. And as life pushed us apart with my long assignments overseas, that spark would finally catch fire. I didn't see it coming. None of us did. People think affairs start with passion, with some irresistible moment you can't fight. That's not how it went down. It started with loneliness. At least, that's what Emily told me later, like it was some excuse that would make sense. I had been deployed for nearly 4 months when Jason started dropping by more often. At first, it was harmless. A leaky faucet, a broken fence board. Jason had always been handy, and Emily wasn't shy about asking for help while I was gone. She told me about it on our calls, casual and light. Your brother fixed the porch light today, or Jason stopped by to help with the store's inventory. I remember smiling, relieved she had family around. Being away that long makes you paranoid about everything. Burglars, bills, bad news. Knowing Jason was checking in on her felt like an anchor, something solid while I was half a world away. What I didn't know then was how those visits started to stretch. Jason would stay for dinner. One night turned into 2, then 3 a week. Emily would cook, pour wine, talk about the old days. She told me later that they laughed about high school stories. How Jason once nearly asked her to prom before realizing I already had. How different life might have been if she'd said yes to him instead of me. When Adam, Jason's grown son, called to see how his dad was doing, Jason didn't say he was home alone. He said he was helping family, leaving out how much time he spent there, how late the nights ran. By the time my next deployment came, Emily barely mentioned Jason's visits. It had become normal. He was always around, checking on her, taking her out for coffee, even going with her to some boutique events for her store. My friends teased me, saying Jason was basically her second husband while I was gone. I laughed it off. Jason was my brother. He'd never crossed that line. But something shifted. During one call, I noticed Emily's tone change when she mentioned Jason. Softer, warmer. I brushed it off as gratitude. Then Jason started texting me about her. How worried he was that she seemed lonely. How much he hated seeing her struggle while I was away. It sounded like he was looking out for me, but now I see it differently. Those were just breadcrumbs, laying the groundwork for what came next. The first dinner that wasn't about fixing anything happened during my 5th month overseas. Emily later admitted she'd invited Jason just to talk, to fill the silence. He brought wine. They stayed up late, laughing, reminiscing. She said it felt easy, like slipping into an old friendship that had never really died. And then there was the night he confessed something. He'd never really gotten over her. Even after marrying his high school girlfriend, even after building a whole life, he'd always wondered what might have been. Emily told me she tried to ignore it, change the subject, pretend it was just wine talking. But part of her had wondered too. That wondering turned into touches that lingered too long, into hugs that weren't brotherly, into a tension neither of them admitted out loud, but they didn't stop it either. By the time I came home on leave between assignments, Whatever they had was still hidden, still quiet. They greeted me like nothing had changed. Jason shook my hand, hugged me like a brother should. Emily kissed me like a wife who missed her husband. And for a while, I believed it. But looking back, I see the cracks, tiny, hairline fractures in the life I thought we had. Emily pulling away during dinner, saying she was tired early. Jason avoiding eye contact when we were alone. The way they laughed too hard at old jokes, sharing a look that didn't include me. I had no reason to suspect anything yet. No proof. I left for another long assignment, hugging Emily tight, slapping Jason on the back, saying, "Take care of her for me." And he did, just not in the way a brother should. By the time I left again, Jason and Emily had stopped fighting it. That's what Emily admitted later, through tears that meant nothing by then. Whatever lines they thought they'd never cross had already been crossed, quietly, deliberately. It didn't happen overnight. According to Emily, it started with stolen moments. Jason staying late after helping at the shop, their hands brushing when she handed him a glass of wine, a hug that lingered too long after one of their family dinners. Every time they told themselves it would stop. Every time it didn't. Jason told her things he never told me. How his marriage had been loveless for years before it ended. How he'd always admired her, even when we were kids, even after I married her. How seeing her alone while I was away made him feel like he had a second chance at something he thought he'd lost forever. And Emily, she wanted to believe it. She told herself it wasn't betrayal. Not really. Just two lonely people comforting each other. She clung to that lie until comforting turned into kisses. Kisses into nights spent together in the home I'd worked so hard to keep for us. It stayed quiet. No suspicious texts, no obvious signs. They learned to hide it well. Jason parked his car blocks away when he stayed overnight. Emily deleted calls and messages before I ever saw them. When neighbors asked, it was always the same excuse. Jason was helping with the boutique. Jason was checking on the house. Even Adam, Jason's son, noticed. He saw his dad's truck too often in my driveway. Saw his father ducking away from questions about why he wasn't home. When Adam confronted Jason, asked if there was something going on with his uncle's wife, Jason denied it. Said Adam didn't understand. But Adam did understand. He just didn't have proof. While I was thousands of miles away, trusting them both, Jason and Emily built a secret life inside mine. They had routines, little rituals. She cooked his favorite meals. He left flowers at the shop. They spent quiet Sundays together watching movies like some twisted version of a married couple. And still, they smiled at me on video calls, told me everything was fine, that they missed me. Jason even said once, "You're lucky, Matt. Emily's one of a kind." I thanked him, not realizing how true those words were in the worst way. Months passed, and what started as hidden nights turned into something bolder. Jason introduced Emily to business associates as a family friend. He brought her to events when I was away, and photos of them together started surfacing on local social media pages. Not intimate, just close enough for people to whisper. I didn't see those pictures until much later. Through it all, my trust never wavered. When you serve, you have to believe home is steady, that the people you love are safe. I thought my wife and my brother were my foundation. I couldn't see that the cracks had already spread too deep. But secrets have a way of slipping out. One careless moment, one missed message, one person who sees what they shouldn't, and everything starts to unravel. For Jason and Emily, that moment was closer than they thought. Betrayal doesn't shout. It whispers. A shift in tone, a hesitation in a story you've heard 100 times before. Looking back, I can see 1,000 little clues that pointed straight at Jason and Emily. At the time, though, it was one small moment that cracked the facade. I had been gone for 6 months, serving overseas, when my old buddy Cole sent me a photo. He lived 2 towns over, worked part-time as a DJ at local events. That weekend, he'd covered a charity gala for Jason's company, a big, glittering thing meant to showcase Jason's family values brand. In the photo, Jason stood at the center of a crowd, smiling for cameras. And right beside him, in a sleek black dress, stood Emily. Cole's message was blunt. "Thought you were still deployed. Weird seeing your wife here without you." I stared at that picture until my vision blurred. Emily had told me she was spending that weekend with her mother. Not at a charity gala, not on Jason's arm. I didn't explode. I didn't call her, scream across oceans, demand answers. I'd learned long ago that reacting fast rarely won battles. Instead, I slipped into the mindset that had kept me alive for years. Observe, plan, execute. The first thing I did was reach out to people I trusted. Guys who owed me favors from past missions, skilled with tech and surveillance. From my base, I couldn't do much physically, but information travels fast if you know where to look. We started digging quietly. Cole went back through event photos and videos. Emily wasn't just there. She and Jason had arrived together, left together, stayed close all night. No hand-holding, no kisses, but their body language told a story. She leaned toward him when he spoke. He smiled in ways I hadn't seen in years. Meanwhile, another friend, Marcus, found patterns in Jason's financials. Big withdrawals that didn't match business expenses, dinners at upscale restaurants on nights Emily worked late, hotel bookings when I was away. Jason thought he was careful, but you can't erase digital trails completely. I requested extended leave under the radar, citing personal reasons. Command approved. I didn't tell Emily I'd be coming home early. Instead, I spent the last 2 weeks of deployment planning every step. When I landed stateside, I didn't go straight home. I stayed with Cole, operating like I was on a mission. Cameras went up around my house. Tiny, hidden, motion-triggered. A GPS tracker slipped under Jason's truck. Marcus mirrored Emily's cloud backups, restoring deleted messages and photos. At first, I hoped it would all be nothing. Maybe the gala was innocent. Maybe the dinners were just brotherly concern. I clung to that hope even as the evidence piled up. The first night, Jason's truck appeared in my driveway at 9 p.m. He stayed until nearly 2 a.m. The cameras caught everything. Jason letting himself in with a spare key, Emily greeting him with a hug that wasn't platonic, the two of them sitting close on the couch, wine glasses in hand. No outright intimacy caught on camera that night, but the way they looked at each other spoke volumes. The second night removed all doubt. This time, Jason stayed until morning. The footage made me sick to watch. Emily sneaking out to take out trash alone, Jason slipping out before dawn, both of them thinking they'd covered their tracks. Marcus uncovered message threads between them, years old. The first flirtations had started nearly a year before. Jason confessing he'd never stopped thinking about her. Emily saying she felt alive with him, that it was like high school again. One message from Emily gutted me. Matt will understand someday. We were meant to be. That line broke whatever part of me still wanted to believe this was salvageable. But my fight wasn't just about heartbreak. Jason's entire company thrived on its image of loyalty, trust, and family values. If this came out, he wouldn't just lose me. He'd lose everything he'd built. And Emily, who thought she'd found some new happily ever after with him, would watch it all burn too. I didn't want a screaming match in my kitchen. I wanted precision. A strike so clean there'd be no recovery. Over the next week, I kept collecting evidence. GPS logs showed Jason's truck visiting my house nearly every night I was deployed. Cameras caught them together on 3 more occasions, sometimes leaving for errands in the middle of the day. Deleted emails revealed plans for vacations they never took, probably too risky to explain if I came home early. When I had everything, videos, messages, financial trails, I set the final step in motion. I contacted Adam, my nephew. We'd always been close, and I suspected he already knew something was wrong. When I told him what I had, he didn't seem shocked. He'd seen them together, confronted Jason once, and been brushed off. I knew it, Adam said, voice tight. I just didn't want to believe he'd do this to you. I asked if he'd stand by me when I exposed everything. He didn't hesitate. Yeah, whatever you need. With Adam on my side, I organized a family dinner at our parents' house. Everyone would be there. Our parents, Adam, Jason, Emily. It would look like a welcome home celebration, nothing more. Jason accepted the invitation without question. Emily sounded thrilled when I called her, pretending I wanted a quiet night before heading back on duty. What they didn't know was that Cole had prepared a full media package, photos, videos, messages, ready to stream on a projector. Marcus had anonymous tips drafted for journalists covering Jason's family-first company, and Adam, furious at his father's betrayal, was prepared to speak out publicly, turning Jason's own narrative against him. I spent the night before that dinner watching the footage one last time. Every laugh they'd shared without me, every touch, every whispered plan. My hands shook, not from grief anymore, but from focus. Tomorrow, I wouldn't just confront them. I'd end their lie so thoroughly that neither Jason nor Emily would ever recover. And when it was done, when their empire of deceit collapsed around them, I'd walk away without looking back. Family dinners were supposed to feel warm, safe. This one felt like walking into enemy territory with a live grenade hidden under my jacket. I arrived early, greeting my parents with hugs, smiling like nothing was wrong. Emily walked in 10 minutes later, kissed me like a loving wife, her hands warm against my face. Jason came right after, swaggering in with his perfect businessman's grin, clapping me on the back like the best brother in the world. Only Adam's face told the truth, tight-lipped, eyes hard, refusing to look at his father. Dinner started normally. My mom fussed over my return from deployment. My dad poured wine. Jason told some story about a big contract his company had landed. Emily laughed in all the right places, touching my arm like everything was fine. But beneath the table, my hands were clenched tight, nails biting into my palms as I waited for the right moment. Halfway through, I tapped my glass, standing slowly. "I want to say something," I began, my voice steady though my pulse hammered. "I've been gone a long time, and I've missed a lot. But while I was away, I learned something I think everyone here deserves to know." Jason shifted in his seat, a flicker of unease passing over his face. Emily looked at me, smiling softly, unaware of the storm about to break. Adam sat straighter, bracing himself. Cole, who had slipped in quietly as a friend from service, clicked a remote. The lights dimmed, and the projector screen lit up. The first image appeared, Jason's truck in my driveway late at night, time-stamped for months I'd been overseas. Another followed, Jason and Emily at the gala, standing far too close, their eyes locked on each other like no one else existed. Murmurs rippled around the table. My mother's hand flew to her mouth, my father's brow furrowed deeply. Emily's smile faded, her face draining of color. Jason's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent. Then came the videos. Clear footage from the hidden cameras. Jason letting himself in with a spare key, Emily greeting him with a long hug, late-night wine on the couch, both laughing quietly, leaning into each other. One clip showed Jason leaving at dawn, Emily watching from the doorway in nothing but a robe. Gasps filled the room. My mom whispered, "No, no, this can't." I spoke, calm and deliberate. While I was serving my country, my wife and my brother were building a life together behind my back. This isn't a mistake, it's not one night. It's been going on for over a year. Deleted messages, hidden trips, lies stacked on lies. And Jason, I turned to him, my voice cutting through the silence. "You built a business selling family values. This is who you really are." Jason finally stood, face red, hands raised like he could somehow explain this away. "Matt, it's not what it looks like." Adam slammed his fist on the table, voice shaking with fury. Don't you dare lie. I saw you. I warned you. And you looked me in the eye and denied it. You're not just a bad husband anymore. You're a coward." Emily began sobbing, muttering apologies, reaching for my hand. I pulled it away, my expression unmoved. "Save it. I loved you more than anyone, and you chose him. I can't fight that. But I won't let you both pretend this never happened." Cole switched slides, revealing bank statements, hotel receipts, private messages. The room erupted in disbelief. My parents stared at Jason like they didn't know their own son. Adam turned his chair away completely. "I delivered the final blow. While you were sneaking around, Jason, I was working with my team. Every investor in your company now has this evidence. Every journalist covering your brand will have it by morning. By next week, your family-first empire will be ashes, and you'll have burned it down yourself." Jason's face went pale. His phone buzzed, messages flooding in from partners already reacting to the leaks Marcus had sent moments ago. Deals were collapsing in real time. Emily reached for me again, whispering, "We can fix this." I shook my head slowly. "No, Emily. I'm done fixing things for people who stab me in the back. We're finished. Papers will be filed tomorrow." Jason tried to speak, but Adam's voice cut through, cold and final. "We're done too. I want nothing to do with you. You're not my father anymore." Jason sank into his chair, silent, defeated. Emily crumpled beside him, sobbing into her hands. My parents sat in stunned quiet, unable to reconcile the family they thought they had with the wreckage in front of them. I set down the remote, looked at them one last time, and said, "You wanted each other. Now you have nothing else." Then I walked out into the cool night air, leaving behind a shattered dinner table, a ruined business, and two people who had destroyed everything worth having. But it wasn't over yet. When people talk about revenge, they imagine fireworks, shouting matches, broken plates, dramatic exits. That's not how it felt. Destroying Jason's empire, and exposing Emily wasn't loud. It was quiet, like finally setting down a weight I'd carried for too long. The fallout came fast. Within 48 hours of that dinner, Jason's company lost two of its largest investors. A week later, their family-first contracts were pulled by national retailers, unwilling to be associated with a scandal so public and so personal. The press had a field day, front-page articles about the Caldwell hypocrisy, videos from the dinner leaking online, headlines asking how a man preaching loyalty could betray his own brother. Jason tried to hold press conferences, spinning the story as a private family misunderstanding, but every attempt only dug the hole deeper. When Adam came forward publicly, confirming the affair and condemning his father's actions, it sealed Jason's fate. Lawsuits followed, shareholders fled, and within a month, the company filed for bankruptcy. Emily didn't fare much better. The boutique she'd built with my support lost customers overnight. People whispered when she walked into town. Friends she'd known for years stopped calling. She moved out of our house when the divorce papers were filed, thinking Jason would take her in. But by then, Jason was too busy watching his empire crumble to play house. They didn't even last a season together before turning on each other, each blaming the other for what they'd lost. By winter, Jason was living in a rented apartment. The house he'd once bragged about sold off to pay debts. Adam refused all contact, changing his number, telling anyone who asked that he didn't have a father. Jason had been reduced to whispers in family conversations, a cautionary tale of pride and betrayal. Emily ended up worse. Alone, her boutique closed, her name attached to every headline about the scandal. She called me once, weeks after the divorce finalized. I didn't answer. I didn't need to hear more apologies, more excuses. Some things you can't forgive, not because you're bitter, but because you know trust is something that can't be resurrected from ashes. As for me, I sold the house we once shared. I moved closer to base, somewhere quiet, where nobody knew the Caldwell name. My parents tried to bridge the gap between us brothers, but I made it clear I had no brother anymore. Jason had killed that bond himself. Some nights, I sit on the porch of my new place, thinking about how close we once were, two boys sharing a room, a ball, a dream of growing old as best friends. But the thing about betrayal is that it doesn't just break trust. It kills memories. I can't think of our childhood without remembering the man who smiled at my wedding, toasted to my marriage, and then spent years plotting behind my back. People sometimes ask if it was worth it, if destroying Jason's company, leaving Emily in ruins, was justice or just vengeance. I don't give them an easy answer. I only know this: betrayal deserves exposure. Lies deserve light. And in the end, I didn't take anything from Jason or Emily they hadn't already thrown away themselves. One rainy evening, months later, Adam came to visit me. We sat in silence for a long time before he finally said, "Thanks for not letting him bury this. He needed to be stopped." I nodded, gripping my nephew's shoulder. "We don't get to choose family," I said quietly, "but we do get to choose who we let hurt us twice. I'm done letting him." As Adam left that night, I realized something. Revenge hadn't given me peace. The truth had, and that was enough. Jason had his loneliness. Emily had hers. And I had the one thing they could never take back: my honor, intact, even after they tried to shatter it.